Senator Royce West of Dallas, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. You were named to this special Senate committee to protect all Texans by the Lieutenant Governor. First, your thoughts on being named on that committee.
Well, I appreciate the Lieutenant Governor naming me to be a part of this particular committee, and I look forward to serving.
And so let me ask you, because yesterday the governor laid out ideas and recommendations in areas that he would like to see from these committees. We're talking about school safety, mental health, social media, police training, and firearms safety. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, my thoughts is that we have, in previous legislatures, dealt with some of these same issues. And it's nice to go back and take a look at some of those issues. But the question is how can we best improve upon specific activities as it relates to these issues? And let's not, um, how should I say it? Let's not underscore the importance of what we're doing as it relates to some of these issues, more specifically, the issue concerning firearms. That's the big issue right there, and how people in the state of Texas want to deal with that. You know, we need to have serious discussions about all of the issues, don't get me wrong, but the most important one is going to be firearms safety in the state. Do we need to have a change in law as it relates to what a long rifle is? I think it's determined a legit long rifle, and require that a person be 21 years old in order to purchase a an assault weapon. Okay, and do we look at a cooling off period? Do we have a serious discussion concerning background checks here in Texas? Straw purchasing. There's a litany of issues that I'm hoping that will be on the table for us to discuss. And I'm realistic from the fact that if we don't have Republican support on having, number one, having the discussion on red flag laws as an example, then nothing's going to get done. Will I broach the issue? Yes, I'll broach the issue, and I will talk with my colleagues about it. But again, I'm realistic that if we don't have Republican support on at least discussing these issues and trying to come up with a compromise solution, nothing will get done. And the public will again feel as though that the legislature is not doing its job by attacking issues where you have a majority of Texans for the most part, the majority of Americans for the most part agree on.
Do you think there is common ground when it comes to specifically firearms safety? I mean, you threw out a lot of ideas there as far as red flag laws, as far as universal background checks, as far as raising the age to 21 to buy, these AK 47s, AR 15s, those kinds of weapons.
I think that given what has been happening in America here recently, more specifically this year alone, more specifically in the last 3 weeks, that I think Americans and Texans are more cognizant of the need for Democrats and Republicans to come together in order to strike some sort of compromise. You, Jack, as well as I know that you begin by having quote unquote a committee. And the question then becomes whether or not that committee represents, first of all, the different perspectives on this particular issue, and whether you have people that can look at trying to compromise without compromising their principle. And so I think that you have people on here on this committee that are those types of persons. And to the extent that we are able to engage in a thoughtful discussion, that we may very well be able to come up with some recommendations. Now, you as well as I know that all changes are incremental. And if I think that I'm going to get everything I'm going to get, then that's not going to happen. But I will be at the table trying to make certain that I get issues on the table and see can I get persons to look at them seriously and come up with compromise.
What about police training, social media, mental health, and school safety?
all of those need to be on the table again. And it's not so we hadn't discussed them before, but I'm of the opinion that you can continue to look at some of these issues from a different perspective and see whether or not there's some things that we can do differently now that we haven't done in the past.
Is it time for every school, every campus, where regardless of high school, middle school, elementary school, to have a law enforcement officer stationed at that school, paid
No,
for by the
no,
state?
no, it's not. It's not. It's not. I think that um, we have gone down this road before with marshals, and I think that local school districts have to make the determination in terms of what they believe is going to be in the best interests of the children within their particular school districts.
So you don't think the legislature should dictate that?
No, I do not.
And what about as far as mental health is concerned? I know before you brought up red flag laws, and that didn't get done in the 2019 session. Do you think now it would there would be more of a reception of it?
I think that hopefully there will be more receptivity from the leadership in terms of the use of red flag laws.
And what, in your mind, is too far? What do you think would be, it's just too much to ask in your mind? In other words, what would be so egregious to you if somebody proposed it?
You know, the fact is, I've got to be open to all ideas. Okay. And it's just like anything else. I can't tell you what it is today, but I know it when I see it. Okay. I think that I've got to be, and others have got to be open to everybody's, thoughts and recommendations, and then be able to engage in a thoughtful discussion. And that's exactly what I'll do. So when you sit up and say that, uh, what's a bridge too far, I can't tell you what a bridge too far is, but I'll know it when I see it.
Governor Abbott has also directed the Texas School Safety Center director to review school procedures and even have random intruder detections, and report all this progress back to the legislature and the governor's office by October 1st. What do you think of that?
Well, I mean, he's governor of the state of Texas. He has better information than I have in terms of what resources we have and what he think needs to be done. And so from that vantage point, I've got to defer to his particular position as governor of the state. And if he's requesting that, then it needs to be done. And we need to, as a legislature, consider whatever results come from that particular report.
You were among the Texas Senate Democrats who urged Governor Abbott to call lawmakers back to the Capitol for a special session. Do you see that happening in an election year?
Um, you talk, do I see what happening?
Do you see Governor Abbott calling a special session because this is an election year? Do you see that happening?
Well, this is what I see. I see 19 children that are dead in the state of Texas and 2 teachers. I see 23 people that were killed in El Paso. I see a school in, I think, Santa Fe where children were killed. I see more and more domestic terrorists each and every day, in Texas being ground zero in many instances. And so from that vantage point, if indeed the governor believes, as many of us do, that we need to be in session in order to deal with this issue, then we need to do that. Now, this is what I'll say to you, Jack. I want to make certain that we have some solutions or potential solutions when we go in there. So there should be a short fuse, if you will, on these committees, both the House and the Senate, to come up with some recommendations. And then once we come up with some recommendations, then we should have a special session. And frankly, we shouldn't allow politics, we should not allow politics to get into making certain that our children are not afraid to go to school. I mean, just kind of think about the parents in Uvalde and some of the other schools, some of the other victims, family victims of senseless violence, where they are right now and them grieving. We should not allow politics, my friend, in order to influence what we do in order to keep Texans safe.
I wanted to ask you about last year during the session, permitless carry passed, and it was not something that was a priority by Governor Abbott's or even the lieutenant governors or even the Speaker of the House, but it became a priority in large part because of the Texas GOP and because that was a priority for the grassroots. And so I'm wondering, how concerned are you that there will be pressure on the from the Texas GOP, the grassroots, on the legislature to keep um, any kind of um, Second Amendment issue from being passed?
Well, first of all, I think that it's important that people recognize that Democrats support the Second Amendment also, but we also support reasonable regulations of it also. And so, from that vantage point, to the extent that there are uh, Republicans or Democrats on the fringes of this particular issue, we need to make certain that people within the middle come up with reasonable solutions to some of these issues. I was not supportive of permitless carry at all. And from that vantage point, I'm still not supportive of it. All right. But I'm also a political realist. If you have the similar leadership in the state, it's not going to be repealed, bottom line. And so the question then becomes, do you spend a bunch of time trying to work on something that will not be repealed during the legislative session? No, you don't. What you work on is trying to find common ground as it relates to other incremental change that will put citizens in the best position so they will be safe and feel secure in sending their kids to school, going grocery shopping, being able to go to church. That's what we spend our time on, trying to find common ground on those types of issues.
And my last question to you is, have you had conversations with Republican lawmakers in the Senate after Uvalde last week? Have you already initiated discussions?
No, I haven't, but I do plan on initiating discussions, frankly, starting today.
Senator Royce West of Dallas, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time.
All right, Jack, take care.